Hey guys, Chad Strat, aka Montana Chill, taking another look at Propellerhead Reason 9.5 with VST support. Been continuing to scour the internet for good VST plugins, what's essential to my toolbox, what things save me time and Reason, and I just wanted to highlight one example. Pardon the airplane flying overhead. Wanted to just give you one example of why VSTs are so cool for Propellerhead users. I'm just going to take a simple room Rex file drum track, Puffin 92 here. A lot of room noise. Basically a single mic or maybe a kick and room mic type of setup. And take it from that to this. A lot more punch, a lot more clarity. So I'm going to go through how to do this with these two free VST plugins and talk about just briefly, what would we have to do, or what would be some options to reproduce this exact same EQ or compression with just straight up Reason rack extensions. Yeah, so we'll get into it, do that, and then I have a comment at the end I'd like to make. But basically what this is the Nova EQ, and there's actually a Tokyo Dawn Labs version of this as well, and either the same developer did it or they purchased the rights to the code, or they just basically mimic the same exact design, but they're very similar. I'm using the original though here because it's lighter on CPU usage, and in the beta version of Reason, by the way, from a production standpoint, you're not going to be producing songs in Reason beta right now. The logging is too intense and hard on the CPU cycles, and it's just glitchy, the audio cuts in and out, so it's just not for that. It's for evaluating, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So what this plugin does is typical 4-band plus EQ, which is high pass, low pass shelf, but then you get your notch and your shelves and all that. But then you also you could take any of those EQ bands and you can apply compression on the band itself, and that is a parallel process, I believe. EQ. So in terms of just this simple plugin, the rack to do this, and to be totally honest, I haven't even looked at it, but I think, like for example, the Synapse EQ, I think you can take that and then output you can't even output the individual audio from that. So to do this in a Reason rack, you'd have to like physically make a massive combinator with a mixer, individual chained, I guess that would be series, wouldn't it? So to do it in parallel, you'd have to split the audio into each individual band, and then restrict, and then band pass to the width that you'd want for each band, and then sum all the bands. It'd be a massive rack, actually. And then on top of that, split those out and apply compression to each one of those as needed. So you can do it, but you're talking easily 35, 40 minutes to an hour of time to do this. And let me show you just kind of what that looks like. I'm going to bypass that, put that on normal, and then play this back. So you can see I got a peak here. A peak popping up just before 200K, right? So now I can take that peak and I can continue to cut that. But the difference is when you cut the overall, you're cutting everything. You're cutting everything in that band down. Here I can minimize that band, but then on top of that band, I can also split band compress that, and now you can see this line of compression that's just hitting those peaks and pulling them down. So it's a little bit subtle. You want to be subtle with this. But the point is to be if this is surgical precision EQ, with a room kit like this, and specifically in the hip hop genre, you're going to get, from your vinyl samples and from different, depending on where you're getting your sources, your audio, your source audio. I mean, you're going to have peak frequencies that you're going to surgically take care of, address, and that's pretty typical in the hip-hop genre, specifically MPC style sampling and things like that. So this is cool. I mean, this is really, really neat. I mean, you can just hear the difference, just on this track. boosting the kick, dropping that mud in 200, and then, you know, controlling a little bit of high end, you know, sizzle on the top side of that, and then just dropping the sub frequencies because they're not needed. And that room noise really messes things up. So just that right there. So pretty simple. And then on top of that, now we move on to the compressor, and you know, same kind of thing. What's happening here on the compressor? Well, a couple things. First of all, this has a pass-through filter. So basically, what this is doing is it's saying, hey, everything under 200, don't compress that, because we want that low end to stay beefy, but we want to compress and really liven up the mids and highs and the lower end mids. So that's what this is doing. We're saying leave that low end punch, but let's like flatten everything and limit the rest of the track. Dry mix, blend and blend, right? Blending that. Your mid skip, we're not using that, but even a limiter and a compressor in one. Oversampling is not really a deal. It's automatically handled in rack extension in the SDK, so we don't really worry about that in terms of our rack extensions. But VSTs, it starts to matter because it, you know, helps you when you have lots of VSTs, scale down your CPU cycles and then scale them up for mix when you go to bounce down, things like that. But just being able to reproduce this compressor, for example, in a combinator would be a pretty substantial amount of rack devices to just achieve this sound. Just a great example, a really great example. The pass filter, a dry mix, you know, you have a mixer in that combinator, and your compressor, your limiter, the type of compressor you're going to get. This compressor has some coloring to it, some dithering and some, you know, it adds a color and a life to the track. So to get this, it would be a pretty good substantial amount of rack extension work. So I just thought this was really cool. My mind's blown just going from, you know, this real uninviting room mic'd drum sound and going to a nice punchy, actually usable kit right off the bat. Really, really cool. Really, really cool. The last point I want to make is loving consolidation of efforts in VSTs. And that's the one thing I want to say is I don't think this hurts rack extensions. I don't think VST support in Reason is, and I'll make another video about this rant, but the TLDR of this is, you know, I just went through and updated all my rack extensions. It took me like 5 minutes. To do that with numbers of VSTs, depending on all the different manufacturers you're working with, you know, it's going to take you a long time to get all your VSTs up to date and keep up with that. Rack extensions, I was able to update them in like 5 minutes and then up and running. All my rack extensions. Rack extensions are built in. They're way, so far, from my perspective, way more performance friendly in terms of Reason. But taking VSTs, that aside, being able to do something like this, quick and easy, with plugins, just get the job done surgically and give you that live sound you're looking for, I think everybody should be really excited. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this is helpful and you're just as excited as I am. Take care.